Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, friends, welcome to the Interfaith meeting for tonight. Um, Let me just read this quotation from Universal Source of Justice. Whether through deeds or words, the merit of your every contribution to social well-being lies first in your resolute commitment to discover that precious point of unity where contrasting perspectives overlap and around which contending peoples can coalesce. This is a message from Universal House of Justice um, on 25th of November 2022. And that's the basis of our interfaith prayer and discussion meetings. We have an excellent speaker tonight. So before I introduce our speaker, we would have prayers and devotions and prayers in music. So let me just request that if you're not reading during the readings or the devotions, please turn your microphone off. And when your turn is on, please turn it on and read your prayer. And these are the protocols for our interfaith. The principle is based on Dr. Leonard Swedeller's idea of primary purpose being, perception and understanding of reality of other faiths together. So show your identity by names, which every one of us has done, and mute when the speaker is speaking. That message I've read. So let me introduce our speaker tonight, um, uh, Reverend John Gigos, sorry, I'm pronouncing it correctly. He's
John Jagasodhi.
sorry, what's that?
John Jagasodhi, Reverend John Jagasodhi.
Yeah, Jagosity. Today, well, he's passionate for justice and has caused him to work in the community development, human rights advocacy, and settlement of asylum seekers and refugees. And the topic of today of his topic is what are the refugees seeking? John and his family sought safety in Australia, fleeing Sri Lanka civil war a number of years back. He has a degree in theology and a doctorate of ministry honors causa for services he rendered in Christianity. So I've allocated the readings. So we go start with audio-visual prayer, then the readings from each one of us, and then another prayer in music, and then our speaker will start.
drops of salt on every page, and my body was breaking for the words he was saying. Be a light in the darkness, be a heart to the heartless. When the world's lost its meaning, be the one who will still go on believing. Once upon a windless night, another dream in black and white. A feeble man of flesh and bone says this world is not our home, and my body was breaking for the words he was saying. Be a light in the darkness, be a heart to the heartless. When the world's lost its meaning, be the one who will still go on believing. These words never end, relentlessly burning me over and over again. Be a light in the darkness, be a heart to the heartless. Be a light in the darkness, be a heart to the heartless.
John, John, can I ask you to do the acknowledgement now?
Yes, thank you. Acknowledging and honoring indigenous land and people. There's a widespread acknowledgement that the present-day structures of society are ill-prepared to address the needs of humanity in its current travails. But that was widely assumed to be certain and unshakable is being questioned, and the resulting ferment is producing a longing for a unifying vision. The chorus of voices raised in support of oneness, equality, and justice shows how many share these aspirations for their societies. From Ridwan, Message 2023, Universal House of Justice. Since we acknowledge and pay respect to the past, present, and future traditional custodians and elders of this national nation we call Australia, and the continuation of cultural, spiritual, and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people. We acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander tribes were the first sovereign nations of the Australian continent, and they will always be the owners of this land. The Gadigal of the Eora Nation are the traditional custodians of this place we now call Sydney, and Wongal people are traditional owners of Perth. They pay respect to the past, present, and the emerging elders. And if anyone is here in our group who comes from the Aboriginal background, I pay my respect.
Thanks, John.
Never may brother hate brother or sister hate sister, united in heart and purpose, coming sweetly together. I will utter a prayer for such concord among family members as binds together the gods among whom is no hatred. I bind you together, assembled for worship of the Lord, like spokes around a hub. In the writings.
In the name of God, I praise and invoke the Creator, Ahura Mazda, the radiant, glorious, omniscient Maker, Lord of lords, King over all kings, watchful, Creator of the universe, giver of daily bread, powerful, strong, eternal, forgiver, merciful, loving, mighty, wise, holy, and nourisher. May his just kingdom be imperishable. Thracian writing, Zenda Vesta, Corda Vesta, Part 1.
Just as with her own life, a mother shield from her only child, let or embracing thought for all that live be thine, and no embracing love for all the universe, in all its high and depth and breadth, and stained love and unarmed by hated within, not rushing enmity. Buddhist writing, Sutta Nipata.
Until the Spirit be poured upon us from on high, and the wilderness become a fruitful field, and the fruitful field be counted for a forest, then justice shall dwell in the wilderness, and righteousness shall abide in the fruitful field, and the work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effect of righteousness, quietness and confidence forever. Jewish writing.
Let them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one towards another. If it be possible, as much as lies in you, live peaceably with all men. Christian writings, Romans 12:9, 1:8.
Moreover, to Moses gave we the book, and we raise up apostles after him. And to Jesus, son of Mary, gave we clear proofs of his mission, and strengthen him by the Holy Spirit. So oft then as an apostle cometh to you with that which your souls desire not, swell ye with pride, and treat some as impostors, and slay others. Islamic writing.
Consort with the followers of all religions in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. Of old it had been revealed, love of one's country is an element of the faith of God. The tongue of grandeur had, however, in the day of his manifestation, proclaimed, it is not his to boast who loveth his country, but it is he who loveth the world. Baha'i Writings by Baha'u'llah. I should have said that these writings Colin has organized and is based on unity.
Child isn't born with a prejudiced mind. He only learns what he sees or what is taught to him. Think about your children, mother. Help all mankind. Don't let the weight of hate weigh the world down. Here we are in this world together. We were meant to live with each other. Tell the child the truth, it's your own son. And everybody know about freedom. Children, think, help and love one another. Got a long way to go. We gotta get there fast. It's a shame it ever had to be, but we can change the past. Think about your children, mother. Save all mankind. Don't let the weight of hate weigh the world down. Think about the children. I see a good day coming. No time for hating. There will be no need for debating. Everybody know about freedom. Children, we are in this world together. We were meant to live with each other. Tell the child the truth, it's your own son. Everybody know about freedom. Children, think, help and love one another. Think about the children. Think, help and love one another. Think about the children. See a good day coming. No time for hating. There will be no need for debating. Everybody know about freedom.
Yeah, that was the end of the devotions. Thank you for the readers to read, and thank you for Colin to organize these beautiful readings and those prayers in music. So we go back to our speaker. John, sorry, I've got Colin coming, so just let me Colin. John, Reverend John, is a great speaker and has spoken in many places, and he's has got an advocacy for refugees. And the topic of tonight is, what are the refugees seeking? So welcome, John. I give the floor to you. Thanks. John, you're muted.
Thank you, Ahmed. Sorry about that. Sorry I don't come regularly, as I'm pretty busy on a Thursday night, but thank you, Vasanta, for inviting. I'm very conscious that this group is interreligious group, and all of us are religious, who believe in God and believe in humanity as well. So it's all about how we practice our faith within the topic that I have chosen. What are the refugees seeking? What does the refugee look for or forced to look for? On the onset, I would like to say that global migration took place from the beginning. It was part of humanity spreading everywhere for various reasons. So migration, refugees are connected. I always believe, and I always say in meetings when I talk, if you're talking about multicultural Australia, you're talking about refugees as well, because we are a country of refugees in many ways. We are both people in many ways. So who is a refugee? Who looks for refuge? That's one question we'll be looking at. And the other one is refugee for what? Or from what? Why do people get displaced immediately? Immediate displacement that forces the people to get out of their country, which would have been earlier a comfortable place to live, but no more, becomes an uncomfortable place. It's not a country where a person is protected or looked after, but a country that in a way rejects their human rights. So it depends on the context. You might be thinking that John is talking about refugees in Australia and those who have come by boat, and yeah, I'm going to, but let's look at the wider picture. Why do they leave? There are various reasons for them to leave. I must say on the onset that there are 123.2 million refugees at the moment in the world, 31 million under UNHCR care, and 9 million Palestinian refugees. This is the present situation at the moment. What triggers off for their immediate flee from their country? It could be lack of opportunities to study, to find jobs, even to cultivate, even to own land. It could be lack of basic needs, like water, bread. And you know what's happening in the world at the moment. How people are and children are, clamoring for some food that could go into their stomach. And of course, safety from tribal war from the beginning. So one tribe had to leave, had to be displaced. It could be lack of safety and economic safety, that there's no opportunities for them to work or earn or look after their families. You can ask questions later on these topics. Of course, the harsh natural environment could cause people to move out. And that's how a lot of people in the early stages of humanity had to move out. At the same time, when we talk about political reasons, human rights, that have been deprived of people, no voice given to them. So people move out when oppression starts building up because of political reasons. At the moment, we are worried about climatic conditions. One day, we might get Pacific Islanders asking for refuge in Australia. And of course, coming from Sri Lanka, I would say genocide is happening in the world as well at the moment. When people are not accepted as part of the nation, and one group of people have been eliminated in a way, that was the agenda, to get them out, like what happened in Sri Lanka with the Tamils. So there are reasons like war and genocide and oppression that can cause people to leave their countries. And Holocaust is one of those experiences that we found long time ago, but still alive in our midst, isn't it? So I just want to bring to you some biblical perspective at this point. What triggers my thinking and why I want to work among asylum seekers and refugees, and why I wanted to be a human rights advocate and activist. From Psalm chapter 9, verse 9, it says, "The Lord is a refuge to all those who are oppressed." We're talking about God becoming a refuge. That is the church or the religious groups. We become the refuge. Just the way we sang, be a light in the darkness, in the dark, be a heart to the heartless. Psalm 18:2, God is my rock, in whom I find refuge, the psalmist saying. Similarly, 2 Samuel 22:3, which was written earlier than Psalm, also says, God is my refuge. This is where our religious reasons for being the people who want to receive those who come into our midst as refugees. God is my refuge, in whom I took refuge. Deuteronomy 33:27, the eternal God is your refuge. The eternal God is your refuge. Joshua 2:22, to Joshua, God says, tell the Israelites to design the cities of refugees. That is, to define the place where refugees can find life. As I instructed you through Moses, find protection for avengers of blood. Exodus 22:21 says, do not mislead, do not mishandle or mistreat an alien. Treat them like one of yours. And that's what says Psalm 146:9. The Lord watches over the alien. Exodus 23:9. Do not oppress an alien. You yourself know how it feels to be an alien, because you were there in Egypt as refuge. And I'll just read another passage from Matthew chapter 25, which is a very popular one that we talk about. It says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from the another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on the right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to eat, drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry? And when did we went and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we seek you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" Then the king will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." This is a passage that really touched my heart, and I usually quote when I talk in different places, because Jesus himself was a refugee on one hand, and Jesus identifies with the refugees. And I mean all the refugees, not just the political, or not just those who fled their country because of oppression, but all the refugees that have to leave their country of origin or country of birth. So now I come to the work that I'm doing, and say at the moment I'm working with the board people, those who came after 2012 August 13th, and as you know that 31,000 came in 800 boats during a period of 2 years, and that caused a lot of turmoil within the government and political football with refugees in the midst. And then, of course, there was a fast track process that was passed according to the process, very quick interviews, and then they took RRT, Refugee Review Tribunal, out and put IAA. It's just a system where it's like putting a stamp on what immigration says. There's no appeal system there. So out of the 31,000, 19,000 were given 3-year visa or 5-year visa, and the 5-year visa they were asked to go to the region. But the rest of the 10,000 were left behind because the interviews were so fast. At the same time, very treated their cases very in a trivial way, and left them in the lurch. So allowed them to languish for about 12 years now. So the question now is, 19,000 people are now given resolution of status visa, where they are, it's in other words, it's a permanent residency that they can call their family after 12 years, or spouses. At the same time, the ones who were left behind have been clamoring for the question, what about us? So the Refugee Council of Australia, and I work with the wider councils of advocacy groups, and we kept asking the question, what is the pathway? Tell us the pathway where we can deal with these people. You're not going to send them back, are you? After 12 years of separation, when they go back to their countries of origin, they will be seen as people who have been asylum seekers. That means they would have been giving information about their countries back home, and then that would have made it very difficult for to go back, because it will be very dangerous. So that's what I'm writing now. I've written about 100 letters to the minister from January to now, and every day, and still about 15 left to write. And I had to interview the guys and find out what exactly happened to them and what did they do for the 12 years here, and trying to sort of tell the government, look here, these fellows have contributed so much in the 12 years. They have got so much of skill. They have lived a life of worthy worthy of Australian standard, although they were despised, despite the fact that they have been treated so shabbily and have gone through post-trauma, PTSD and all that. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. And hopefully we have been given the okay that a 48B bar will be lifted. If the bar is lifted by the minister, he only can lift it. So that is the only way. And once the bar is lifted, then under 18 people or those who came married to a citizen, or those who have came as a family will be given priority. At the same time, every case will be taken up. That means case by case. On they are married, but they have to get them out within the next 2 years. So they are going to wait a little longer. So they are losing their patience. They are very upset about it. Some of them are angry as well. Some of them have tried to self-harm, and some of them have committed suicide. So this is the situation in which we are working with people with mental health problem, people sleeping roughly on the road, and with major mental illness like schizophrenia. So this is the area that I'm working. So again, I say that we call them boat people, but Vietnam, those who came from Vietnam also were called the boat people. And of course, at the beginning of Australian, so in 1788, with the British coming over here, they came by boat as well. So that's the way I'll look at it. So my background, why I am here in this place, I'm a clergy, I'm a minister, and I finished 50 years of ministry last year, and I had a celebration, and Dr. McDermott came to participate, and Dr. Hugh McDermott, a good friend of mine, he surprised me with a certificate, and then took it to the parliament and spoke about my service to church and community, emphasizing community, because all 50 years I have worked 100% in the church, 100% community. Back in Sri Lanka for 12 years and 38 years here. And why I'm saying that is because everything started in Sri Lanka. So the war was starting, and I was placed in Trincomalee in the Eastern Province. I was a superintendent minister in a large, wide district, and I was involved with YMCA, with other organizations that were, some of them were underground organizations trying to help the victims of war there. And then because I was the president of the Human Rights Organization in Trincomalee branch, I still have some of the letters here with me. And what I had to raise my voice. The parliamentarian went hiding in India. So I got up and spoke, and I got all heads of forces to come to my church, call the public as well, had a meeting to say, this is what's happening. People are being killed. People are being sort of attacked on the way home along the rail track. And then, of course, they started burning the village. So they couldn't answer my question. They called for a meeting, and I stood up again. And some of the refugees that were in our churches, Catholic church and our churches, were taken middle of the night, at gunpoint. They were taken away from Trincomalee, and we didn't know where they were. So I was on my feet, and the Catholic minister, priest, also supported me at the end. And my life was in danger, but I didn't even think about it, because I thought, being a clergy, being a Christian, I'm called to look after. I'm called to be the voice of the people, the vulnerable people. And so with that human rights background, they tried to take me for an interrogation. I would have been the first clergy to die in 1984 January if that happened. But thank God, I survived that and went to the next station where I was on the road all the time trying to get people out of torture camps. My own members of the church, three of them, and one of them is a clergy in Canada, and the other one is a psychologist and a clergy in India. So two of them I helped at that time, but I didn't mind dying at that time, but for the sake of the people. But our little boy, we had two children, one was 2.5, another was 10 months old, and there was a crossfire, and the younger boy almost died with a febrile fits, and miraculously we saved the life because a car driver, I begged him to bring his car and take him to hospital 10 miles away, and he did, and we could have been shot on either side. We had a white flag that is nappy, and so that's how, when at the end of the week, when the child came back with Shanti, my wife, not really okay, but the doctor has said anytime in the night he gets it, he dies. You can't get on the road because that's a main road. 400 meters away, LTT Tigers, 800 meters away, the police as well as STF, Special Task Force, so anyone could shoot. So that's how we applied for special humanitarian grounds. We came here. It's a special humanitarian visa. So that was in my mind till such time that the plane took off. I didn't know whether I was going to be called back, because all my documents of settling people, building houses, everything was taken by the government in Colombo. And 1 year after we came here, the person who looked after that project was killed in Colombo. So you can see how dangerous it was. But at that time, you asked me the question, how did you survive? At that time, I had to do it. I didn't even think twice. My wife got a promotion from the main branch. She was a bank manager, and she went as a regional manager, and she kept saying, don't talk. But while I was there, I had to talk. So then when I came here, after being in parks for 5 years, doing a lot of work in parks in New South Wales and then Shell Harbour, and I came here the first year itself, a refugee, asylum seeker called me to the detention. I didn't know where it was. And I went to the detention center to see him there. And while talking, he was stinking. And I said, Sana, why are you stinking? He said, they haven't given my bag for 2 weeks. He was in stage 1. That means he could have been sent any day, anytime from that, from the time he landed. I was so angry. Anger comes, with your human rights sort of, conviction. And I went to the counter, we went to an officer and said, I demanded that the bag should be given. And they gave it. Then I realized I can be an advocate. So I worked with the immigration on the ground there. They honored me as Father John. For everything they will say, Father John, there's a protest, don't come today. Or someone had committed suicide, Father John, come and help us. So I was working with them and with the Circle company, and stood by the guys. And then, of course, it's history. We got them out one by one. First fellow who came in 99, November 23rd. Shanti looked after him for 6 weeks, and I had to go as a co-tenant. And every step of the way, finding their job, case managing, and everything. And then they are married, they are families, they are conflicts, they are court cases, they are domestic violence situation. 2 weeks ago, I was in the courts with the family and tried to sort of get them out because I knew that the girl was innocent. And so it goes on and on. So this is the reason I am in this space, because I believe that freedom is something, freedom and human rights is for all people, not for a privileged group, not with the people with power or privilege, but for all people. And so I will challenge us as we go along. that every one of us in any religious group should be conscious of the aliens, the strangers, the refugees, the ones who have no one to care for, to reach out to them. And I'm very conscious that the churches and the religious groups are feeding, looking after them individually, and as churches and as religious organization. And I'm very grateful for that, particularly when, Afghan people had to come, recent group had to come, and then Ukrainians had to come, the Palestinians had to come over, and the amount of work that have been done with community refugee settlement programs. And so I would sort of challenge myself and all of us here to spread the news about the present plight of the refugees for various reasons, not just because they have been persecuted in their country, but for the reasons that I have already told, that we are in a way responsible for those people when they come into our midst. We have to treat the aliens as one of us. And the political game that the political parties play, and that should stop. And I have been in this game for 30 years now, and I know how much the politicians have played games to send people to Nauru, to Manus Island, how their language there, how the fire, during the fire there, how they got in big trouble. And one fellow met with a nasty accident where the Nauru ones went over him on a vehicle, and I'm still in touch, and I wrote a letter for him as well. So this is where I am, and I'll leave the rest to you all to ask questions, and I will say where I am coming from. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Very nice, explained everything about refugees. Is anybody having any questions to ask? While they're thinking of putting their hands up, well, Rung raises. Okay, Rung, you go ahead first.
And before that, Ahmad, I wanted to finish up. I wrote it. It's all about inclusion, cohesion, social cohesion, and unity of humanity. Now, that's what the topic is, isn't it? Unity.
Unity, yes.
Which
Yeah,
is
Colin organized those readings regarding unity.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
I'm just, as I don't want to go into specifics, I only want to talk about general issue in relation to refugees.
Yeah.
In the old days, let's talk about 1980s forward, when the refugee get interviewed by general knowledge, they will be, identify whether they want to come to other countries that, like civilized country, due to economic reason or political reason, or like they in a warfare and battlefields and everything, so they try to get out.
Yeah.
So, but that in the old days context, economics or politics or both. And if they honor economic things, obviously their chance to go overseas is very limited, right? Because why don't you stay in your country and, do a lot of products and produce a lot of good things and help people in your country? Why you want to come to like America or France or wherever? What you going to do there? What is your job going to be there? You have any language? Like you have any French background or study or culture? Just say, for example. And then in that time frame, I heard a lot about Red Cross help.
Yep.
Right? In that time, China issue. So they talk a lot about Red Cross. They send people like you, for example, to go overseas, like in the Asian area, to work with Red Cross. but they didn't say much about United Nations then. But nowadays, everything is about United Nations.
Mhm.
Is that because of the funding, because of the money issue, and because, like, people that pull out Red Cross and work for United Nations instead?
Mm.
I mean, in what way? All because the problem are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, not smaller. That's why people just change the umbrella.
Mm.
Yes, that's that. And then when people come here, just like the way you describe, if they want to gain some merit, they need to be volunteers. They need to do volunteer work. Is that right? Just to find jobs. I mean, do volunteer job first, and then use as a resume to get into the main door. But just like current situation at the moment today, Telstra gonna cut 5,000 jobs or 5,500 jobs in the near future. So actually, talk about mainstream, people don't even have jobs. And so how are we gonna help the refugee and migrants?
Mhm.
Just like at our church next week, we're gonna call for donation for the winter 7 cent poor appeal, because people that keep money coming, all the time, and in a mainstream life, people don't even have jobs. Because that's what I mentioned about volunteer work. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Young, for the questions. I'll answer the first one is talking about economic and political background. These are the common ones that affects the people, and then there's a confusion whether they're coming as political refugees or economic migrants. That was sort of going on for some time, and then they had to sort of test it out to see whether they're economic migrants or political refugees. But what I said earlier was that a refugee can be anyone for that matter. Even climatic condition can cause. So, but we tend to talk about refugees who come from political background. But at the same time, we know that so many countries are poverty stricken and they are struggling to find make ends meet to feed their children. And because of some of the wars that are happening, again a humanitarian situation arises at the moment in where it is happening. So I would say that economic migrants should be looked at in a different way altogether. There are complementary protection system there that they could apply for, if anything, that they have been sort of deprived of. But generally, we are talking about refugees who are fleeing the country. And you were talking about Red Cross. Red Cross is international, all right. But then in 1951, after the Second World War, the United Nations, UNHCR, passed a 51 convention saying that, to take all the Holocaust victims to and so many countries, about 36 countries signed the document, and that's why we are obliged to receive people. But 1968, there was a protocol. In the protocol, they said anyone for that matter. That is how, when later on, the Asian people from Asia and subcontinent were able to come, including Middle East and then Vietnamese, because they came under the protocol. So there is UNHCR took over in a way because of the convention, that because they became a United Nations one and had the power, not because they are funded. I mean, sometimes I feel they are helpless. Sometimes some of the things they can't even. You see, Australia had broken about 150 international law regarding refugees, but they don't care about it here. But UNHCR keep telling we are under the surveillance of purview. But UNHCR has become the organization which has become a global advocate for asylum seekers and refugees, and also in the countries where they are, in like Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Burma, wherever they are now, UNHCR is the one who are looking after, feeding them. I'm looking after some family in Medan, and most of the things that's happening to them, even a big operation, it was UNHCR and the IOM, International Organization of Migration, that works with them, are looking after. So that's one part of it. And the other thing I want to say that because we have signed the 51 Convention, when a refugee comes by air, by ship, or swimming, or whatever, once they come and land, then we are obliged, the government of Australia is obliged to give them a legal help, legal advice, not to put them in the next boat and send, or in the plane and send. That is actually sending them to harm's way. And there's a term for that as well. And so what they do is, they're supposed to do, and they are doing to a certain extent, that legal aid helps them to make make the application for their asylum claims, and that is allowed to happen. What happened from 2012 August 13 was, they didn't know how to handle these guys, and Scott Morrison said it will take a long time, just as much the time they would have taken in Malaysia, for example. He said, we knew about 3 to 4, 5 years they are not going to be their case is not going to be taken up. That means they will be dependent on Centrelink. 89% of Centrelink money for job seekers were given to asylum seekers. They lived on it. They were not supposed to send money back home from that money. If they send, that's cut off. So after some time, they said, no, you have to go back to work, and then give them work permit. They took a little longer time to give work rights, which is actually supposed to be given work rights for them, so that they can have the dignity of working and to feel good about themselves, and not to make money, but to look after themselves, not depending on Centrelink, which was a very hard thing for most of the countries we came from. We came from a shame and honor mindset, and we don't want to sort of depend on someone. We wanted to work and earn our money, and most of the guys that I've been writing letters have gone through endless trouble to find the work, and the work they are doing is so risky. Sometimes they have lost their fingers, they have got hurt so much, and they have got emphysema, that type of illness, and even mental health problems. So work rights are given so that they will go and work. And so the work rights is something that is their right. But what happened was, when they were going through this fast track, if they miss one day between, say, 28 days time, you have to appeal to the courts, and if they miss one day, their work rights is cut off. And they are on their own, and the friends have to help them. So some of them have been here for a long time, supported by their friends. And they might be doing cash in hand work. We don't know. I don't want to talk about it, but because they have to survive. But mostly they live in the same house, and they have been fed by their friends, and of course board and lodging is free for them. But now they come to the point that they have to reapply for a bridging visa. That will be renewed every 3 months, but no work rights. So that is the plight that the people are living in. So most of the people that I've been writing letters are waiting for Federal Circuit Court or Federal Court to call them, because there aren't enough judges, magistrates, people to interview them. There aren't enough immigration lawyers to represent the minister. So much so 2 years ago, 58 million were set apart so that they will find more immigration lawyers for the minister, and also decision makers. So that's the plight that we are faced. But who is in trouble, who is languishing because of that, are these guys who have been there for 12 years. But not all of them are working now. Some of them are not. Work rights have been denied. But there is a system called SRSS payment, that is support payment, support for refugees, and that is only those who are unable to work, and they have to prove it with the doctors, specialists, everyone had to write letters, and SSI, big organization that is helping us, case manage, and that's how these guys get their payment. And they have cut off their SRS payment for many of them. That is why they are with no work rights, because of that, they don't have Medicare. Because of that, they can't go to the doctor. They can't get the mental health issues sorted out. One of the guys I'm looking after, he didn't have Medicare till about a month ago, and poor fellow couldn't see the doctor. And I talked to the doctors and said, please see them on a pro bono basis. And they are prepared, but they don't want to do that. The guys don't want to do that. So without Medicare, how to survive in Australia? Where Medicare is for everyone. And even during COVID-19, you might remember that international students and asylum seekers were not cared for by Scott Morrison. So much so, they were almost destituted. And then people started feeding them, all the restaurants, Indian, Sri Lankan restaurants, and other restaurants as well. And then 6 million money was given by Victorian government to look after the international student. I was in the international student lobby group, and also asylum seekers. And then after that, New South Wales, they and multicultural NSW. My son at the moment is from January is the deputy CEO of multicultural NSW, so he knows all the figures. And so they gave 6 million or more to look after the people in New South Wales. So this is the situation with the political game they play, and I'm very sad about people who went to Nauru. Many of them were able to go back, go to US, America, on that they had a pact to take 1,500 people. We were worried about the first term of Trump, whether he will stop it, but he didn't. And then people from Manus Island, some of them are still languishing in Papua New Guinea. 400 people are now allowed to go to New Zealand, and a few people from both those Pacific Island group could go to Canada if 5 people in Canada can sponsor, and all the money spent by the 5 people. So that's how it's happening. Of course, on the ground, as I said earlier, it is the government is Labour government is helping us to find a pathway, but what will be the result for each and everyone is yet to be seen.
Okay, Jung.
Thank you.
John, I have actually 3 questions.
Yeah.
But I see if anybody raises their hands, I'll stop. My first question is a theological question. And the question is, let me go through a scenario first. I just consider myself, I was a young person studying in UK, and revolution happened in Iran, and then my family was forced to stay and not to go back, and then we migrated to Australia. So I'm wondering whether there is God's hand in this time of the humanity where He's trying to bring a mixture of people together, bringing people from all different races and cultures to come and mix with each other. What do you think about that? Is there God's hand in this concept of this mixing of different people in the world?
I mean, thanks for the question. Generally, what's happening in the world, or what has been happening in the world, is human-made. We are the ones who cause it, or these are natural disasters.
Yeah.
But as for God's presence, yeah, God's presence is there in the world, even through disasters. I mean, we know about all the disasters that had happened throughout and how God's hand was felt by people through compassion and kindness and love of neighbors or those people with, who could give heart to the heartless, that happened. But God's hand is there in that way, that I believe. But God gives freedom to human beings to act with justice and compassion. Because one of the things that gave as a big gift is love. And he said he created us in his own image. Out of love, he sent his own son. He proved that love is the final answer. And not even the cross, not even the suffering and the scourging or oppression or whatever. But finally, it is love that has to win. So God is there in that sense. So the mixture of people to come in, it is happening. It is an outcome of what's happening. And remember the story of Pentecost? One of the things that now on the Pentecost, the story is told that people from different cultures and different languages were brought together. 3,000 people came together. They heard the message in their own language, in their cultural setting. And God said, all the people are equal. I love everyone, and we need to, the song also, love one another. Help your children to love one another when they were in the future. So trying to bring people together, even through evil things happening in the world. And the lesson is, look here, you're all different, but for me, you're all the same.
Human
It's
beings.
not like the unity in diversity, but diversity in unity as well. To accept the diversity of the people. So God is working in that way, and we don't know the mind of God fully, but what He will do in the future that we are praying for the future, next generation and the generation to come. Wow, we don't want Trump around our whole little, I don't want to name all these guys, but the thing is, what will happen? Will God's kingdom come in the way that you and I are talking, and the group is sort of listening? Yeah.
Yeah. My second question is regarding a paradigm shift. Now we look at this unity in different countries and human endeavor these days. Now I'm just wondering, the way we're going now is people from all over poor countries and places where there's wars, they're trying to escape there and come to these well established countries like America, Australia, Europe. And I was just wondering whether these countries have to come together, perhaps have a paradigm shift rather than accepting refugees, go into those countries and help them to establish them in an equal way so that a balance of equality comes through the whole of the planet rather than we're having these rich countries and poor countries. So what do you think about that? Should we have a paradigm shift?
Yeah. I pray that there'll be a paradigm shift. And we have seen it happening over from the time of humanity. How things have been changing, and then we saw new light coming in, and new leadership coming out of all the dark period that we have gone through. But it's interesting. I read something, but we'll keep it to our group. Don't you can record it, that's fine. But one of the things that was talked is that I follow some of the authentic sayings that are happening. Is that you are talking about US and Europe and Australia, all the Western countries, white-skinned people's country. I will put it that way.
Well, I will call them rich countries.
Rich countries. You can call it rich countries.
Because
But
the black people,
yeah.
it was America, even in
I know,
Australia.
there are, But what they said in that article is that, you know, this is the country.
Yeah.
These are the countries who look down upon the other countries who are not like them, including Europe. I mean, I was surprised that Europe was included in that, but Europe or UK or US, all these countries, look at the world now. Look at what's happening. What are the countries that have been bombed and destroyed, and what are the countries around? US had kept their armies, and what are the countries they started the war or destroyed Iraq or whatever that have done, even recently Iran. So whom are they attacking? Who is Netanyahu is attacking? What is happening in the world? Is it the country that we are expecting to give life to the dark, the countries in the darkness, in new life, and to raise them up as equals to all those European and English speaking or westernized countries? Or are they continuing to keep them down, getting all their resources back into their country? You know, from the time of imperialism, the so-called rich Asian, Pacific Islander Asian or subcontinent people or Middle Eastern people, they have been ripped off of all their wealth. And where are they, those wealth? And is this happening? I'm posing another question. But when I read that, I was dumbfounded, and I thought, what is this happening? Because one thing I believe, Ahmed, and to our group, that even in Australia, believe me or not, this is my own not understanding experience, that refugee intake and the way that we are dealing with refugees, political or economic or whatever, is based on racism. Remember the time when Zimbabwe, they were prepared to get the white people in, not the black people here. They were offering places to come. At that time, our advocacy groups questioned, why are you showing difference to to the black people, whereas you are trying to sort of favor the white skinned people? I mean, for God, He looks at the heart. God looks at the heart, not at the face. That's the message that David got, and also David's father, Jesse got. God doesn't look at the outward part of it. And to look at all these countries who are involved in international politics or economic struggles with each other, including tariffs and all that. I have a feeling.
Perhaps in the future it gets better.
Yes, in the future, hopefully, the second, third generation will see better light and see that all people are equal. Everyone should be treated. Everyone have the right, have their human rights, and treat everyone equally. And as you said, people, the mixture, hopefully they intermarry, and then they find out, there's no black and white. My two boys are married to Australian girls. For them, everyone is equal. And same way they taught us, we are not going to be Sri Lankans in that way. We are now, we belong to Australia and the wider Australian.
Okay, I'll wait for my third question, and because Vasanta has got her hand up. So Vasanta, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Vasanta, is it? Vasanta, are you going to ask a question?
Vasanta, you're mute.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's stopped short time. Vasanta.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
I had to unmute. I had to mute the other one because I have some problem with this. I joined in another one also. But the question I have is, there are some refugees who have been approved by UNHCR and they are staying in other countries like Indonesia or Thailand, Sri Lanka. Is there anything that you or any of the organizations here are doing about them? coming here. Do you have any idea what is happening to them?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I should have covered it, Vasanta. UNHCR is looking after these guys in the different refugee camps where they are single or married or family, children are being born, and they are there for the one that I'm looking after. The family have 5 children now, and they are there for 10 years.
Yeah.
But
They can't go to school, or the children.
yeah, they go to school. They have
they
their
have schooling.
they have schooling. They have schooling, and they have social cohesion programs. They have medical assistance given to them. But the thing is, who are the host countries who are open? See, we want Australia to open up and give at least 20,000 next year, in the next year, refugee intake. And at this, increase the number of people. There's 17,350 or something like that. Increase it more. Open the door, because there are people waiting to come. And the first step they are taking is skill, who are the professional or skilled refugees in the camps. They are trying to give them priority. They are allowed to apply. And recently, the family I'm looking after, they have got UNHCR letter to say, give us what your skills are, your educational background, what you can contribute to the country, host country, and we will promote that country to invite you or find the funding and all they will do for that. So that avenue is there, but not all of them have skills. All of them are not, don't come from the background, but there are from other countries. Among the refugees, there are doctors, engineers, construction workers, and lots of skills they are there, and they are now given a chance. Another area is that churches, organization can get together and sponsor a family, and this is a community sponsorship program. And there is a program already set. They will help you every step of the way how to do it. There might be about $30,000 that might be that we have to find together as a group. And some of the churches are doing. Some of the cultural groups are very good at that. And then they are getting people from overseas, or from these camps, to come over on this community refugee support group. So that is there. But the basic thing is most of the doors are closed, and they are very selective in the way they want people to come here. And so the host countries, Australia is a country we can have 35 million people in this country. If you send them to the desert, these refugees, they will make Australia a great country, with cultivation or whatever. They are doing it in their own countries, in desert areas with minimal natural resources. But we don't want to do that, because there is a conflict or conversation about how many people we can handle. There are people who oppose migration itself. We don't want people to come here. The sad part is those who came as migrants in the last 20 years also saying the same thing. Don't get migrants here. They are migrants. Some of them have been refugees, but they don't want other people to come. So that's the sad thing. So that's, there are avenues, but countries should be more human and more open. And now the Prime Minister of Germany, I think, France had gone to meet UK, after a long time, the Prime Minister had gone, what are they talking about? One of the topics is refugees in their countries. How many to accommodate, how many to take in, how many to be looked after. And then the question of people smugglers. They use that slogan saying that they have to fight this people smugglers who are sending these people by boats, and they are dying in thousands in the sea. So all those, yeah.
There was a news that the people from Europe wanted to go to UK by dinghy boats, and then I think the Danish police was cutting the boat, so it's chaos in there at all.
It's chaos there.
Uh,
Chaos there. It's an ongoing thing. But the way that you ask, Ahmed, the future, the paradigm shift, when will it happen? We pray
but
that
something has to happen.
we as religious people have to pray, because God is in control. After all, it is God's world, and we have been asked to look after each other, look after the fauna and flora, and to be responsible people. We are not, so we all take the responsibility, and we hope that we will nurture our children and their children to bring about a new world, a new order, and where everyone will be treated equally, and build another universe. And yeah.
Well, that's the aim of the Baha'is as well. Okay, Colin, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, John. I am enjoying this presentation. And it's the defective international order which creates conditions, which creates refugees, and then the same order, because of the sovereign right of each country to determine who comes and goes, makes it harder. So they create refugees and then don't give them refuge. And we saw that. Well, on the one hand, it was kind of successful because it stopped the flow of refugees. On the other hand, those who were on Nauru and Manus Islands, they suffered terribly because I would say most of them were genuine refugees, and then they ended up in a place where they becoming hopeless and committing self-harm. But then, I think a lot of them did manage to relocate to Australia. I'm just wondering, in your experience, John, what personal qualities or make a refugee more resilient, more able to adapt, able to be successful, and whether having a faith is part of that?
Thank you for the question. And I like the sort of, premises that you started off saying that, in the international community, international order, how they create refugees, and then they are the saviors as well. And we could stop certain wars, we could stop starvation, we could stop poverty in certain countries. And there are billionaires in this Western world who can pour money to sort of build those poor countries, but rather they have taken all their resources and used them for their own for their own good and their developments. But talking about the Nauruans, how they treated these guys there, and I hope you remember a few years ago when they opened up Nauru again. $8.2 billion for 4 years were allocated, and then Tasmania put their hand up and said, "Send them to us. We will use the 8.2 million and develop Tasmania." They said, "No, they should go and suffer. It's impunity. You suffer, then people won't come." So they were sent to Nauru so that the message will go. In Sri Lanka, placards everywhere. I used to get those placards in emails to be sent to these people to tell them, "Don't come, don't get into your boat, you'll never come to Australia." So that's what they used them for. And then they try to solve them by sending it to America, 1,500 white America. The 12 years ago, the hundreds of them were sent to Nauru. They didn't even know. All of a sudden, they were told their bags were packed by the Serco, put in the plane for 12 hours. They thought they were going to Sri Lanka, landed in this island, and then they were there for 18 months. And someone, as you said, people tried to commit suicide and self-harm, and then they had to wait for 6 hours to go to toilet in a queue, And then finally, they got someone burned the building down, and then they had to bring all of them here. And just before that, you know about Medivac program that was my minister at that my MP at that time when we were in Vaucluse, and she was the one who promoted. She was a doctor, and Medivac was passed, but they repealed. Liberal repealed it later, and I think it was immigration minister at that time, Peter, and so some of them came here on medical grounds. What did they do with them? They put them in airport, alternative places for detention centers, and in hotels, and they were out through the window waving and putting out placards. You know the story, and so how did they survive? One way is to protest. They kept protesting. That's the human part of it. They wanted to fight it. Their resilience. You can't put us down. I know. I remember the time in 2007. I think 83 Sri Lankans came by boat, and they were there in Nauru, and they got their sheets and drew on them their what's happening to them. Took photos and sent it all over the place, and then Australia had to bring all 83 here at some point. So the resilience is there from that angle. But that's a personal quality. It's a human struggle, like the migrants and the refugees who are there leaving their country. They want a better life. They will risk their life in the boat. They want to do it. And one of the things I'm seeing writing these letters is the resilience that they had. How did they do this and then go to work and operate machines? Whereas they were in PTSD, carrying their PTSD, going to their torture trauma counselors. But that's part of it. Definitely, faith plays a part. Most of them that I have been sort of meeting, either they'll go to Malgova Catholic Church regularly on a Sunday, and they want blessings from Mother Mary and Jesus, and they go to their temples, they go to their neighborhood temples and churches, and they want to hold on to that hope. They believe in God because they come from religious backgrounds. Most of them, not like the Western world. And deep within them is a faith that there is God, and the God won't let us down. And I need to be alive so that I can be there for my family or my wife who is separated from me, or my children who have grown up. There are children who were 1 year old or just born when they had to get in the boat. They want to do that. And when I write letters, I write about their calling about where they go to their church and what do they do there, and why do they go to church, where they get their values, moral values, and their strength to survive here. So, and they have written books. The artwork they have done, I should have had this with me another time. I show one fellow painted the boat that he came on. Beautiful artwork. And they have exhibitions everywhere. And all those things, they are trying to sort of bring out their inner strength and inner faith that they have to survive in the first place, but at the same time to hope for a future in this country. We are talking about Australia at the moment.
Okay, at this time, maybe we'll ask you a TT, VP, or Jiva if they have anything like to say.
VP is me, so I can't say anything.
Oh, you're adding people into the
Yeah, yeah.
I wondered who that initials are for.
The phone also, because this computer is freezing sometime, I don't know.
Okay, all right. Well, because the writing today was about unity, in the last few years, we see kind of polarization of the humanity. You have the Western people in one side and the communist countries like Russia and China, North Korea, being on the one side, and even Iran has joined them, which is not a communist country. So I'm wondering, this polarization is causing use of armaments, increase of expenditure on armaments and things like that. Whether the unity is the issue here, that, you know, if we had unity in the world, the, you know, many concepts would, each problems of the humanity would disappear. Even refugees would disappear. The issue of the refugees would disappear. What do you think, John, about this? I mean, is the unity of humanity a big issue here?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have lost the word unity in the struggle for, you know, power, land, and you know, keeping another country on their feet, like, you know, North Korea and South Korea. I was at the DMZ party. I was standing there with a group of people when I went for a conference, and see the North Korean on the other side and the South Korean. Why? Even two people of the same race, so-called, lost the word unity. And so much so, they try to build a place where North Koreans could come at the border and meet up with their family, close relative. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then we were told that while there were buildings on either side, and that building, both South Koreans and North Koreans are there in the building on the other side. And one day a South Korean officer or soldier just went missing, and they had to sort of close the door altogether, where someone had sort of pulled him out, you know, and was killed or whatever. So the unity, the word that I'm looking for is the victim is not the word, but unity is the one that finally we have lost, because in the struggle for power, economic power and political power, we have ended up losing that major aspect of humanity, the unity, and we are polarized in such a way that we sort of, time to time, we will cluster groups. You know, some countries get together and then they give, you know, support each other, and and in another time that they will be at loggerheads. So we don't know where it's going to happen. You know, some of the things that I heard was that, you know, China will be quiet, but China would like Russia to continue, although they will say, you know, there should be, but they will like to continue, so that Taiwan will be a target for China. So everyone is looking to sort of grab another country or land and engulf altogether another people, which is very sad. So polarization should stop, and we should bring people together. And who will be the peacemaker? Not US anymore. We can't even think of it. Who will be? Qatar is talking about, you know, Israel-Palestinian situation at the moment, but who will be the peacemaker? God, we have to pray to God that He will bring a peacemaker from somewhere to sort of hold everyone together and say, look here, this is enough. Enough of polarization, enough of power hungry and land acquisitions or land grabbing or war against each other. Let's come together and build each other up and be a better world.
Yeah, well, our interfaith group is for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely, you have to try to implement peace among ourselves and friends and all that. And I'll tell you what, Baha'i community is building these local communities that are trying to be, showing the way for peacefulness and harmony, living together, and hopefully that would help.
Yeah, absolutely. Every
Yeah.
little thing we do.
But I think there would be a critical mass where things would change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's our prayer.
Okay, time is 8:44. If nobody has got any questions to ask from John or have a comment.
Just
we
a final
can-
comment that you're right, Ahmed, about community, and it's thanks to refugees that I've learnt, for example, about hospitality from the Persian refugees and good food from Vietnamese refugees.
It
Yeah.
is true. That is absolutely true. And I have been sort of talking about it in different places. We say our hospitality to the refugees, but their hospitality to us is amazing.
Yeah.
Just the food, the way they sort of include us before we include them, and people are touched by that. I finished with this, when I was looking after Afghan young fellows, and one of the words that they taught me was Noor Hurdi. Noor Hurdis, have you eaten? Noon is naan. Naan means bread. They don't say hello. They don't ask how are you. They ask, have you eaten? If you are not, come to the table.
Yeah, I think Jung has raised her hand again. So do you have a question, comment? You're muted.
I won't be long. I actually experienced French cuisine. We all cook French food, so we didn't know much about spring roll. So they, I mean, you need to go somewhere to learn about spring roll, and the French cooking is very simple. If you only eat French salad, it take no time to do it. Just return to the topic of unity. What I'm seeing is among the countries in general, we need to build the trust, high trust, because then one country said, okay, we stop fighting, we stop firing the rockets in about half a day or one day, but then the rocket is still firing to get fire. So therefore, I mean, you can say one thing, but then in the real life, they do the other thing. I mean, they stop fighting, okay, talk, stop fighting, consultation, but then next morning will be a fire rocket falling. So we had to build trust if you want unity, and we had to build high trust if you want unity and peace. Otherwise, we just go around like around the circle.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're
Trust.
right.
Building trust is very
The
important.
trust is so important. One of the things I learned in my human rights work is without winning the trust of the refugees or asylum seekers, there's no way we can serve them. Trust is so important. And in the wider world, just the way we have lost that concept of unity, we have lost the concept of trust as well. We don't trust anymore each other. I don't think some of the countries we think they are united or they support each other, trust each other either. And I think US had learned a lesson recently, trying to sort of solve the problem of the war there. They don't trust each other. So you are right. If only we can trust each other, we can take the next step.
Okay, if nobody has got any more questions or comments, I think we are at 8:48. We're so practically run out of time. So I'd like to thank John for coming and giving a talk on refugees, how they're seeking, what they're seeking. And it was interesting to know a lot. And I'm thankful that John helps these people when they're trying to come here. Me, as a migrant, I know how difficult it is when you start coming to a different country and try to establish living again. So with that note, I'd like to